All right, let's just jump right in. We're going to pull back the curtain on these hidden mental shortcuts that are, constantly sabotaging our happiness, our money, our relationships every single day. And these aren't just some fancy psych terms, okay? These are like the invisible strings pulling the levers on your decisions.
I mean, think about it. The last big decision you made, or hey, even just the last thing you bought online, were you really making that choice with a totally clear, rational mind? Or was there something else kind of pulling you in a certain direction without you even realizing it?
Well, that's what we're here to do. We're going to unmask these mental traps, one by one. The goal? To help you spot them, sidestep them, and, finally take back the controls of your own mind. Okay, first up, we've got the king of all biases, confirmation bias. So, to put it simply, your brain has this built-in filter, and all it wants to hear is, yep, you're right. It literally goes out and hunts for information that proves what you already believe, and just throws away anything that might challenge it.
You see this all the time, right? This is the engine behind our social media filter bubbles. The second you form an opinion, your brain flips into full-on detective mode. But here's the catch. It's only looking for clues that back up its original theory. Everything else is invisible.
So, how do you break the cycle? It's tough, but you basically have to become a devil's advocate for your own beliefs. You've got to force yourself to ask this one simple but really powerful question. Yeah, it's going to feel uncomfortable, but trust me, it is the absolute key to clearer thinking.
All right, next up we have a real master manipulator, especially when your wallet's involved. It's called the anchoring bias. This is when our brain just latches onto the very first piece of information it sees, and then uses that as the reference point for, well, everything that comes after.
And this trick, it's so simple, but man, is it effective. Every single retailer uses it. That initial $100 price, it doesn't even have to be real. It could be totally arbitrary, but it becomes the anchor. Suddenly, your brain isn't asking, is $60 a fair price? Nope, it's only judging how big that discount is. Tricky, right?
So how do you fight back? It's all about beating them to the punch. Before you even look at a price tag, especially on a big purchase, do your own homework. Figure out what that thing is actually worth to you. See, by setting your own anchor first, you completely neutralize their little psychological trick.
Oof, this one is painful. It preys on that feeling we all hate, the feeling that we've wasted our time or our money. It's the sunk cost fallacy. This is the trap that makes us throw good money after bad, or good time after bad, just because we've already invested so much.
And look, this isn't just about business plans, right? It's about life. Logically, your rational mind knows that the time or the money is gone. It's sunk. It's in the past. But our emotions, they just scream at us, don't let that investment be for nothing. But there's an escape hatch, and it's one single question that just cuts right through all that emotional baggage. It forces you to look at the decision based on its future potential, not what you've already poured into it. If the answer is no, well, there's your answer. It's time to cut your losses and walk away.
Okay, let's move on. Next up is something called the availability heuristic. Now, this is the bias that basically makes us scared of all the wrong things. Our brains have this terrible habit, right? We judge how likely something is to happen based on how easily we can remember an example of it. So if it's recent, if it's super vivid or dramatic, we automatically think it's way more common than it actually is.
I mean, this chart really says it all, doesn't it? We hear just one, dramatic news story about a plane crash, and boom, suddenly flying feels terrifying. But we completely ignore the much higher statistical risk of that boring car trip we take to the airport. Why? Because our brains are wired for drama, not for data.
The fix for this one is pretty simple, but it does take discipline. You have to ground your decisions in the actual numbers, the real statistics, not just the loud, dramatic stories and scary headlines that are, let's be honest, designed to grab your attention. Always look for the data, not the drama.
All right, let's talk about a famous one, the Dunning-Kruger effect. To put it really simply, the less you know about a topic, the more you think you know about it. It's this wild paradox where just a little bit of knowledge can create a really dangerous amount of overconfidence.
And this comparison just nails it. The true mark of an expert isn't that they have all the answers. No, it's that deep awareness of how much they don't know. But the novice, they don't even know what they don't know, which leads them to this peak of false confidence.
Okay, let's move on to the halo effect. This is a bias that is constantly skewing our judgment of other people, especially in things like hiring or even dating. What happens is, one single positive trait, like someone's really attractive or charismatic, it casts this halo over them, and we just automatically assume everything else about them must be great too.
Now, what's really interesting here is that this thing works both ways. The flip side is called the horn effect. That's where one negative thing, maybe they were rude just once, makes us judge everything else about them harshly. Our brains just love these kinds of shortcuts, but man, they are so unreliable.
So the solution is to be, well, more methodical about it. You have to force yourself to evaluate people on separate, distinct qualities. Like, okay, is their work actually good? Are they punctual? Are they a good team player? You can't let one shiny, or one ugly, trait just bleed over and color your entire perception of them.
And for our final bias, we've got the one that explains so much of our daily stress and anxiety. It's the negativity bias. See, our brains are fundamentally wired for survival, and that means they're basically like Velcro for bad experiences and Teflon for the good ones. The negative stuff just gets way more of our attention and brain power.
And this number, wow, it really drives the point home. This explains exactly why one single piece of criticism from your boss can completely overshadow 10 compliments. It's why you can have a fantastic day, but one rude comment on the drive home just ruins the whole evening. The sting of the bad is just so much more powerful than the pleasure of the good.
So here's the crucial part. You have to fight back, and you have to do it consciously. Since our brain's default setting is always scanning for threats and problems, we have to deliberately, on purpose, practice noticing the positives. Things like gratitude journals, they aren't just some fluffy, feel-good exercises. They're necessary tools to actually counteract our brain's built-in negative programming.
And there you have it. That's the whole shebang. Look, this isn't just a list of terms to memorize. Think of it as a new toolkit for your brain. Just knowing that these biases exist gives you a huge advantage. Now you can start to catch yourself in the act, hit pause, and make a better, more conscious choice.
So, I'm going to leave you with a question. Now that you're armed with all this knowledge, I want you to look back at your week. Or heck, even just your day today. What's the very first decision, big or small, that you're going to reevaluate through this new lens? Because remember, the real power isn't just in knowing this stuff, it's in actually applying it.